YouTube, how's it going? Frogs Angels is back, and in this video, I'm taking each team that needs a head coach, and I'm going to give them a coach. I'm going to predict who they will land, who they will hire, so each of those teams, and then at the end, I have an extra coach and extra team, what position he'll land in on that team. So a little bold prediction. So stay tuned for all these teams that need head coaches, plus one that doesn't need a head coach but needs something else. So we're going to get right in. Right before we get into this, actually, go ahead and follow our Twitter, frogs_angels, link in the description. A lot of updates on there, predictions on there. Also, if you take a look at the first few links in the description of all of our videos, we got some new games, free games you can play. One is a playoff pick'ems, so you can join in, pick against us, pick the games. And another one is some sort of a fantasy challenge, fantasy playoff challenge on NFL.com. So you pick your lineup each week out of any of the players playing. So go ahead and check those out. Free to join, play along with us. But let's get into this, starting with the first coach. It's Josh McDaniels, our first coach here. We're going to remove some of these teams right off the bat. Pretty easy one. So we got all the open head coaching teams here. And, yeah, right away, I'll take off the Bucs. I'll take off the Dolphins, Bengals. This is really in no order. I don't think he's interested in any of those teams. I think the teams left, we'll take off the Cardinals. I think the teams left have a little more interest than the teams I just took off, but I'm going to go ahead. I haven't heard anything about the Broncos, but it's not the worst job, so I'll take off the Broncos, though, and I'll remove the Jets. I really think there's only two logical places. I think two places he's interested in, and who's everyone's been saying are the best two jobs, and I would have to completely agree here. One has Aaron Rodgers, and one has I like the Browns job the best, honestly. It's almost a complete team. It's a complete team for the future, and you still have a lot of draft picks. So, but I mean, I started with the most obvious one here, and I think everyone's in agreement that we think he's going to end up on the Packers, and I think that makes sense there. I do think the Browns is a little more appealing, but I think maybe Aaron Rodgers might be more appealing to him. Can't really say for him, but it sounds like he'll get the Packers job, so that's what I'm predicting here. And then we got quite a few more coaches and teams to get through here, so let's go on to the next coach. Bruce Arians, and another pretty simple one in terms of teams, how many he's got to choose from. You know, I'll take off the Dolphins, the Bengals. We can take off the Cardinals. Don't think he's returning there. That would be something, though. Broncos. We'll take off the Jets, but I think that would be the fourth most likely. I think the Packers, like I said, I predicted them with McDaniels. I think that's who they got their sights set on, and I wouldn't really rule out Arians for this because he's a good coach. The Packers will realize that, but it looks like between the Bucs and the Browns here, we heard months and months ago that he was it's a top spot for him was the Browns. He would be interested in coaching that. That's really the only team he'd be interested in coaching, is what he said at one point a couple months ago probably, and I think the Browns have interest in him, but at this point, I like somebody else for the Browns, and there's multiple other guys they've interviewed. They're getting a head start, So I'm going to take off the Browns. It's a bold prediction because he said he didn't want to coach anywhere else but the Browns, if I heard that correctly. And Buccaneers up here. Maybe not the most appealing job. They do have a lot of talent, but what the bold prediction is here, I think not only is he ends up there, I think they make him an offer really he cannot refuse. I think they make him one of the more highest paid coaches in football. I think they pretty much have to do that. I think he's kind of waiting around for the Browns, but he's really not sure on that still. So they're going to have to pay up. It's kind of a bold prediction, but that's what I'm going with. We're moving on to the next coach here. Vic Fangio, defense coordinator from the Chicago Bears, is next. And I think another one where, I think we'll start to hear more and more. So maybe we'll update this video in the future. But right now it sounds like only a couple teams have interest. And me personally, I like the idea of a defense coordinator like this, and I think you can go out and get an offense coordinator that's you're not in any threat of that guy going to get a head coaching job. So you can have like a 2-for-1 special. Sometimes the problem with the really good defense coordinators is their lack in involvement in the offense. You want to see them involved. So that is the one downside, but I think Fangio gets a job. I think we could take away the Bucs. I think we can take away the Bengals. Some of these teams could pop back up. All we're hearing right now is the Dolphins and the Broncos. So those are the two teams I'm sticking up there. And I think both will have heavy interests when they're actually deciding who will it be. I think which one's more intriguing to him has to be the Broncos. And, I think the Broncos have a real opportunity to get Chuck Pagano. I think that's definitely an option. Few other guys, too. So that's definitely one we got to look at. Definitely one that's hard to predict. And again, I think the Dolphins will be after Vic Fangio. They kind of already are. But I like the Broncos for him. It just makes too much sense for me. They got to get a bright offense coordinator in there, a good one. But, I think they'll like the idea of him working with that defense, because that's on paper, it's a defensive team. But the defense needs to be a defensive team. It was a good defense. It needs to be up there in the elite category. And they have those elite players like Von Miller, and Bradley Chubb's coming along. But who else would be as good as Fangio to pair with those guys? Same style defense. They don't have to switch their defense. Von Miller doesn't need work, but it's good to have a guy like this with Von Miller. He just worked with Khalil Mack. That Bears defense took that next step even. And then Bradley Chubb, working with guys like that. And you even see there's a lot of guys in the Bears secondary that really weren't supposed to be good player. They're supposed to be just good at best, and they're playing out of their minds. So great defensive mind here. I think it's very smart. It makes so much sense to me if the Broncos get him. So I guess this would be it's supposed to be more of a prediction video, but I think this makes too much sense for me not to do it, and I think the Broncos have to realize it, so I'm kind of banking on that. So went Vic Fangio to the Broncos. It makes the most sense to me. We're moving on to our next coach, and it's Mike McCarthy, former Packers coach, and he's got a Super Bowl. He's got a good resume, got a good record, overall record, so it's still appealing to me, honestly. It didn't look good with the Packers, but, that team didn't really have too much outside Aaron Rodgers, so can't put too much blame on him. So I would like this hire for anyone. And once again, we can narrow this down to a few teams. We can take away the Buccaneers. We can take away the Dolphins. We can take away the Bengals. Cardinals, Broncos. Oh, and I still got the Packers up there. That wasn't done on purpose. Taking away the Packers, because that's obviously the least likely out of those teams. I don't think I have to say that for everyone to know it. Jets and Browns. Those reports right when the season ended, right when Week 17 season ended, that he was going to be the Browns coach, and it sounded more and more like it. Browns are interviewing a lot of people, so it makes it tougher. I personally think he ends up on the Jets, just because who I'm picking to go to the Browns and the situation that they're handling here. We got to get to the Browns for me to go more into that. But I'm going to go with the Jets. I think he ends up there. He only is interested in the Jets and the Browns so far that we know. He's turned down other places. So the Jets make sense to me. Darnold, maybe not the most appealing quarterback, but definitely appealing. He got better as the season went on. Work with Mike McCarthy. Some good things can happen there. So I got the Jets. Let's move on to our next coach here. Zach Taylor, coming from the Rams. I think it's a little bit of a wild card, and I think he actually lands a head coaching job. A little bit of a bold prediction too, but he's already got some interest from some teams. We'll take off a few teams here. We'll take off the Bucs, take off the Browns, the Packers, Jets, and it leaves us with 4. I like these 4 teams for him. I already had Vic Fangio going to the Broncos. I think they go defense rather than offense here. Makes sense to me. Let's see if they actually do that. So I'm looking at these 3 teams. They make a lot of sense to me. I think the 2 that make the most sense are the Bengals and the Cardinals, so we'll take off the Dolphins. But Dolphins probably are the hardest ones to pick who's going to be their head coach. But I ended up going with the Bengals here, which Cardinals could work out too. Young quarterback-minded coach here. He's going to have a similar system to McVay, but his own tricks in there, his own flavors. So younger coach too. So it could be appealing to a lot of teams. Something different. They like the guys that have the experience in the league. That's why we always see, the same coach getting, retries over and over again. But this guy has experience in the league, and he's a young coach, something new, something that's working. So it makes sense to me for one of those teams, for really any of those teams that we had on the board originally. I like the Bengals. It's kind of just a weird gut feeling I got. So a little bit of a wild card. Move on to the next coach here. Eric Bieniemy is the next coach, and if you remember, he was actually the running back coach for the Minnesota Vikings back in Adrian Peterson's prime when he came in the league and in his prime. So that was interesting enough that he kind of got upgraded to better jobs. Now the Chiefs' offensive coordinator replacing Matt Nagy. Look what he's doing with the Chicago Bears. So another wild card guy, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, a guy that has that experience, that's been in the league for a while, and has really different takes. He's really good at running backs. He played running back himself. Really good with running backs, and you see that offense with the Chiefs. Obviously, you got to give Andy Reid most of the credit there, but maybe it's worth a try. You know, you always could take the Cardinals route here and fire, and plenty of teams have done it. Fire a coach after 1 year if you don't like what you've seen. So some of these teams that don't expect to win a Super Bowl now, I think it makes sense to take a risk. We'll go ahead and just take quite a few teams off the board here that I don't really think will hire them. These three teams actually have shown interest already. And so I think it's pretty obvious at this point that I'm going to land him on the Dolphins because they have an opening there. Hard team to predict who they will get. Maybe not the most appealing job. They have defensive talent here and there. They need some help on offense. They need a new quarterback. But a guy like this, I think a guy like this will be willing to take. Some of these guys have their demands. These two teams are the only teams that I would coach. I think he's a guy, like some of the other guys I discussed, will be open to any job. And the Dolphins makes sense to me. They get a young quarterback in there, run something similar to the Chiefs' offense, and their ability to his ability to find his guy at running back too is appealing too. And the Dolphins have a pretty good running game. We'll see if they can have that solid number one for the future. Maybe he helps with that. On to the next coach, and it's Freddie Kitchens. Yes, I think he's getting a head coaching job. Maybe you can guess who, where, which team. But apparently he's going to get some interviews for the head coaching position. A lot of teams will want to interview him for the offensive coordinator position. The Browns are declining those because they want him back as the offensive coordinator. But right off the bat here, let's just go. I think he'll get some interviews from some of these teams. I think he ends up being the head coach. Another bold take, hot take here. I think he ends up being the head coach of the Browns. Like you could say, I really thought about Greg Williams here. I wanted to put Greg Williams up here. It makes sense. The Browns looked really good with Greg Williams. He's a great leader. And why wouldn't they just get Greg Williams and keep Freddie Kitchens as their offense coordinator? It does make sense. That definitely does make sense. But I think they're threatened. I think that a team could come over and swoop Kitchens because he's been that impressive. Limited amount of time here with the Browns, so maybe that won't appeal to most teams. But a little bit of a bold prediction. I think they can't lose him because he has a serious connection with Baker Mayfield in that offense, and they see the league as more of an offensive league, and they got to have him. They would love to have Greg Williams and Freddie Kitchens, but I don't know if it's possible. I think they got to, better safe than sorry. But the Browns, very hard team to predict because of the most appealing spot, in my opinion, maybe first or second in most people's opinions, and they've already interviewed a million coaches, and they already have planned to interview more, and he will get a head coach interview with the Browns. He will get a head coaching interview. So it's kind of weird to see. I guess not super weird, but it'll be weird to see here's a head coaching interview, and we're going to hire somebody else, but we want to keep you as your offensive coordinator position. Maybe he won't want to leave, even though it's a little bit of a slap in the face. Not too bad. Maybe he'll want to stay anyways because he's got that connection with Baker and that offense. But somebody may come along, try to give him a head coaching spot, or maybe a more appealing offense coordinator spot, and that could scare the Browns. So that's kind of what I'm banking on here. A little bit of bold prediction, but we will see what happens. All right, what do we got? One more head coach, and then we're going to go on to a guy that I think will get an offense coordinator job somewhere. And then the video will be over, but we got plenty more content, a lot of predictions. But who's next? Kliff Kingsbury from Texas Tech. He actually got a USC job as an assistant there as the offense coordinator. And there was some talk about him coming to the NFL even before he got that job. But the fact that teams are interested in him and want to interview him when he already has just signed with another team, USC, in college, so they have to buy him out, I believe. So the fact that they're even going into that means they're seriously interested. And really the only two teams I heard about were the Jets and the Cardinals. So that's the teams I'm going to leave up on the board here. And obviously I already had the Jets landing Mike McCarthy, so you can take a guess that, yeah, I'm having land with the Cardinals. I think it makes sense with Josh Rosen. A team that doesn't really, they have holes. They have holes here and there. It's a team that's not really expected to be back in the playoffs really soon. I guess defined soon. I guess in a couple years they could be back there. But I think Kingsbury is a guy that can work with his weapons, work with the young quarterback Rosen, the limited weapons that he has, and I think he can make it work offensively. They have the defensive talent here and there. They got to draft a little better and get a better defense coordinator in there. It is tough to see a coach that you could say failed at the college level. How could he get an NFL job? Well, that's just the way the NFL's heading. They rather have the winning coaches in college, but those guys won't leave. They're actually getting paid more, most of them. So they go get a guy like this, throw some other teams off, make their quarterback into a system guy. It just makes it easier on the offense, on the quarterback, and we've seen it. So many teams, so many quarterbacks, they're all succeeding. So it makes sense to me. It is tough because he didn't win much at Texas Tech. Even when we had Mahomes, I don't think he made Mahomes. He deserves a little credit for that, but I think it's more he found Mahomes. And the upside of him being a good coach in the NFL, well, college, most of it's recruiting, just getting the right players in there in the first place, then coaching. Well, he couldn't seem to really recruit the best players mainly on defense, and he didn't really have the best defense. Maybe that's due to the recruiting, the players, or who he had at defensive coordinator. So maybe it's not all his fault. Well, he's the head coach, so he should take the blame. But maybe when you don't have to recruit, it's up to the GM to get the free agents, which is similar to recruiting, but in draft, this head coach's style of players, it makes sense to me. It wouldn't be that surprising if he succeeded here in the NFL for those reasons I just explained. So, maybe people aren't predicting this to happen. Maybe it's another wild card, but I think he lands somewhere because teams are really trying to pull him out of a job that he just got. So it means something. I don't know if you would. I guess you could waste the guy's time and go through all that trouble, but I think he could end up somewhere. The Jets, I think, would like him too with Darnold. That makes a lot of sense. Darnold came from USC. Kingsbury was about to go coach with USC, so maybe that's a connection. Probably not, because Darnold was gone well before he was here, but just something interesting. All right, so we got one more guy here, and let's just throw him on the board, and we're gonna take the Cardinals off too. I should have done that first. Oh well. Hugh Jackson. He's going to get an interview with the Bengals. Do we throw the Bengals back up here? No point. I don't think he gets the head coaching job there. It seemed like they got worse with him there. I think most likely a coincidence, hurt injured players. But I don't think he gets a head coaching job. It's a little surprising if he even gets a job, at all. But I think it happens here. I actually think he gets the offensive coordinator job for the Minnesota Vikings. A little surprising there. He's close with Zimmer. They're good friends. They've coached with each other, and it's sounding more and more likely that it can happen. I heard rumors they want Stefanski back. I don't know if they would want him back. Zimmer just keeps making the point that bottom line is we got to score points. We got the players. We got to score points. Stefanski's going to get a head coaching job interview with the Browns, which is very surprising because wouldn't they, if for an offensive guy, wouldn't they rather have Kitchens? So all that with the Browns is very interesting and very confusing. Don't think Stefanski gets a head coaching job. He'll have a job somewhere. It's just sounding more and more likely that Hugh Jackson goes to the Vikings. So I think it's Hugh Jackson or it's Stefanski, who they currently have. So, and DeFilippo, he was supposed to be the next head coach. He's not even getting offense coordinator interviews because there's people that want him too, like fan bases and writers, and it's just plain and simple. He can't call plays. Pretty plain and simple. Can't call plays, and I don't think that'll change. He's a smart guy, can break down film, can prepare players, he has a good playbook. He just can't call plays. So get him on your staff. Good guy to have on your staff. He can't call plays though. Don't leave it up to him. I wouldn't really like the Jackson signing here, but I guess you gotta have some trust in Zimmer. But will Rick Spielman, the GM, agree with this? Because his job is make sure this team's going to win, which he thought he did already. So interesting stuff coming. Quite a few bold predictions here. Things will change. More interviews will pop up. So stick with us on Twitter, Frogs_Angels. I'll keep going on this head coaching stuff, playoffs, Super Bowl predictions, all kinds of fun predictions. We talk during games too. We talk live during games, give my thoughts. I'll go on rants here and there, talk about the draft on there a lot. So give us a follow. Please click that subscribe button if you haven't quite yet. 10K is our goal. And we're almost there. Thanks to everyone's support. And clicking the like button, we much appreciated as well. That's going to do it for this one. Check out those links in the description. We got free games to play, playoff pick'ems, all kinds of fun stuff. And stay tuned for more. We got plenty of playoff predictions on the channel already. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.